it's great to be with you, and I'm so happy to introduce a great friend to the university, Peter Kiley. He is currently the C-SPAN's Vice President of Affiliate Relations and Communications. He manages C-SPAN's relationships with cable and satellite companies, as well as alternative television providers. And he also directs the network's communications, the media, and the public, including across social media. He and his wife, Susan, are also parents of Hurricane Hank. That's Henry Kiley from the class of 22. You're such a great advocate for USD that you sent your son here, and he graduated, and now he works here. So, Peter, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you all.
Good to be here. We'll just ask one quick question about your time at USD, and I think you came to USD from Indiana, correctly?
Correct. I came to San Diego from very small town, central Indiana. Yes.
All right. Well, you ended up in San Diego. What kinds of things would you say you did to help prepare you during your time at USD for your career?
While I was at USD, I got very interested in politics and foreign relations, but more importantly, I got hooked on journalism. It's the first time I really started to read newspapers, and there were free newspapers all around campus, and I started to devour them. It was also at the time, the early 1980s, was when cable TV launched. And believe it or not, it was Cox Communications was the cable company even back then. And they launched C-SPAN. They had C-SPAN on. And a short time later, while I was in school, CNN launched. And so it was just a time where you were able to acquire information in whole new ways. Nothing like we've seen in the time since, but that was a real burst of growth right then. And it really prompted a great deal of interest on my part in sort of politics, foreign relations, government relations, what was happening in the world.
And if I remember correctly, your plan was to get a job on the Hill, correct?
Yeah, I took an internship between my junior and senior year for the congressman that represented my district in Indiana. And after graduating from USD, when all my life I thought I was going to go off to law school, that experience of working in DC the summer before really motivated me to come back to the Hill and work on Capitol Hill. So I got a job for that congressman, and that's what brought me back to DC.
All right, and you're a good example of people being persistent. I think on the one side, if you're looking for a job, you should be persistent, but you were pursued for the job, correct? The job that you now have that you didn't want.
Yeah, I was just networking, and the man that had found C-SPAN was also from Indiana. So I reached out, told him my story. He agreed to talk with me, and I went to see him. Yeah, and they started talking about jobs there at C-SPAN, this fledgling cable network. And that really wasn't of interest to me. That's not what I came to Washington for. But they did sort of push. They needed people to do tasks for them. And so I went in the evenings and I did projects for them for a couple of months. And I met a lot of them. It was a small company then, only about 40 or 50 people. We're roughly 200 now. And I really liked the people. I liked the cause. And when I finished those few months of projects, they offered me a position. That's when I accepted it. It's now crazy to say 37 years later. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you've done so much for USD while at C-SPAN in terms of communication students, visiting with communication students and other students that are interested in DC and helping us in all kinds of ways, even as being a commencement speaker.
Yeah, well, that was a great honor to be the commencement speaker. But I think it's been terrific for me. It's been a value to me, and I hope to lots of students. I didn't really re-engage with USD for many years after graduating. It was not until many years later, in the early 2000s, where I really got re-engaged with the university and started to meet with a lot of undergrad students who were coming to Washington to experience sort of what it would be like in DC, doing certain internships or projects here. And that was great for me. I would encourage everyone to use the USD network now a lot more. At that time, I met with some USD leadership, and I actually think they wanted a lot of money from me. I didn't have a lot of money to give, but what I did say is, when I came to Washington in the mid-1980s, I got a lot of benefit out of my father's networking group, and because he had graduated from Notre Dame. And I said, if USD expects to be a great American university. You should have a great alumni group, not only in LA and San Francisco, but also in Washington and New York and Atlanta, and you can name dozens of cities. And I think since that time in the early 2000s, much thanks to Charles and many others, we've built that sort of organization in communities across the, big cities across the United States. And Washington's a particularly strong alumni group, just a fabulous group of people who are engaged and so supportive of one another. And I wish we somehow would have got that going earlier. I know I would have benefited from it, but it's so heartening and wonderful to see more people benefited from it, even while they're students or just out of USD.
Yeah, we have, I'm not sure if we've got it planned yet, but we usually have a nationals game in the summertime. And, if a student happened to be really interested in coming to USD or coming to DC, you should come to that event and meet with current alumni. I'm sure Peter will be there.
I will be. The Nats aren't a lot to brag about this year, but nonetheless, it's a great time. And the organization here in DC has a number of events. Each year there's a handful of sort of networking opportunities, meet at a bar, meet at a restaurant, meet at a museum, something. There's occasional visits from USD. Dean Norton will come out from the school, and we've honored certain professors, and other professors have come here to speak. And those have grown from when we first did them of, 3 or 4 or 5 people attending to now dozens upon dozens attending. So it's just fantastic to have that sort of relationship with so many people. And it's great for me as one of the older alumni to meet so many new alumni and then to get relationships started with them. I talk to them frequently. I hear from them a lot. We help each other. They've helped me in some of the work that I'm doing, and I try to help them in the work that they're doing. It might be as silly as a restaurant recommendation or a neighborhood to live in, and sometimes more real career guidance and support.
We've got lots of questions, but if I just want to encourage people to use the Q&A feature if they do want to ask questions. By the way, Saturday, June 3rd is the Nationals game, so put that on the calendar.
Excellent.
Okay, let's ask some of these questions. What advice do you have for Toreros? The question is interning in DC, so perhaps getting interns, or once they've got an intern, how can they really most benefit from that internship?
Yeah, DC is ripe with internship opportunities. Obviously, I think there's a good program at USD to help guide you to things. If you're interested in a C-SPAN internship, I think maybe one of you has already expressed that. Please, you can email me directly. I believe my email is in the format already, or we'll give it to you. I think the key thing to look for an internship is to ask them some questions. As you're applying for the internship, they'll be happy if you query them about what are the responsibilities, what are you really going to have me doing? You don't want to come to DC, particularly if it may not cover all of your cost of being here. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But you want to make sure that you're getting relevant experience. The name of the organization that you work for may be important to you, and it can have some cachet and reflect really good upon you. But the most important thing is you need to get experience, right? You need real working experience. So quiz the intern coordinator or whomever you're working with on these things to find out exactly what sort of roles and responsibilities you'll get during your internship opportunity. Make sure that they are setting you up to be active, to be participatory, to have access to some of the executives, to do things beyond some simple filing or sitting there looking for something to do. Make them share with you details about your responsibilities.
And as we know, oftentimes those hardworking internships, when you really put your effort into it, go above and beyond, those turn into job offers, which they always
often return. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Or you get some experience that says this is not what I want to do. Or you get some experience that really helps you when you go off and apply for the next thing. You can say, oh, I did 3 months of that sort of effort. And internships are extraordinarily valuable. Encourage everyone to pursue them.
Indeed, and that's what happened to me in terms of trying an internship and finding out I didn't want to do what I was doing. Yeah. So one student asked a question, how can they connect with Toreros living in DC as a current student? You obviously are giving your email address out, and lots of alumni. I also encourage them to come by the USD alumni office, and we can help them with some specific introductions. But any other advice?
Yeah, I think we'll take advantage of Charles' office there. That's great. But also, just go to LinkedIn, and you can find lists of DC alumni on there. If you go to my LinkedIn, please let's connect there, and you'll see on my list we've connected with a few dozen, I suppose, people who have been or still are in DC. And I think there's probably somewhere, I don't know, Charles, but a list of the members of the DC sort of the DC Toretto Club.
Probably the leadership.
How they share, but
probably the leadership. But yeah, so those are good ways. I think LinkedIn is a great connection.
I encourage everyone that's on this to establish your presence on LinkedIn, and even if you're not using it as your primary job sort of outreach, it is a fabulous way to network, and it's a fabulous way to sort of scout people. I use LinkedIn all the time to look up potential business contacts, to learn about them, to see where they went to school, to see what they did think. And you can just find all kinds of information on LinkedIn in a very professional way that will help you establish relationships when you are able to connect with someone. If you know a little bit about them, you can say, hey, we share this in common, or isn't it great how well your team just did in the College World Series? You know, whatever it is, you can find those sorts of things on LinkedIn, and it's not seen as, snooping. That's what it's built for, is to help build those sorts of relationships. So don't fret and worry so much. Does my LinkedIn look perfect? I can guarantee you mine doesn't. It's kind of outdated, and I don't spend a lot of time on myself on LinkedIn. I'm sort of have my presence there, but I definitely use it to continue, even at my old age, to make new contacts, to find new people, to learn more about the people that I'm interacting with, because it helps build those relationships.
Yes, and I think particularly for current students, the Career Development Center will be happy to help you make sure your profile is as accurate and typo-free and all that stuff. Have your friends look at it, check it out, and young alumni.
Take advantage of Matt.
There we go. All right, here's a good question from the audience. What advantage does one have living in the capital city comparatively to other major metropolitan areas?
I don't know what sort of this group has been to Washington or experienced Washington, but DC is not only one of the great cities in the United States, but it's a world capital. It's London, Paris. You go around. I'm not going to, but Washington has so much to offer in being a seat of power, a seat of media power, a seat of government power, a seat of business power, a high-tech area. There is just so much happening in Washington. And because of the power and influence of the United States government, everyone has to have a big presence here, a strong presence here. So whether you in your heart of hearts know you want to be a do-gooder, I want to contribute, I'm a nonprofit person, and I want to go and help save the world in whatever areas of interest to you, they have a presence in DC, because you can't really do that without some influence on the government. To the far excess, if you want to go make tons of money, and that is your goal, is to be a capitalist extraordinaire, you have a DC agenda, and they're here too, figuring things out. So it really runs the gamut of all that. And it's just it's a beautiful, beautiful city. It's a great place to live. It's got a great climb. The museums are free. The sports teams are fair to get to, it has so much to offer. The brewery scene is not quite up to San Diego, but it's really getting there.
All right. What are the best things to take advantage of while living in DC as a young professional?
Well, as a young professional, it's networking. It's the opportunity to ask other alumni or other people that you find in leadership positions in this city to have a coffee, to have a breakfast, to meet, to take a walk on the mall, to talk to them. I have found people from just out of college to well through and deep into the retirement years are eager to talk about themselves and to share their stories, and for the opportunity to meet young people who are interested in careers in Washington that may mirror the careers that we have taken or are undertaking. They want to help. They want to be involved and engaged with that. I can't encourage you with enough strong words to take advantage of those opportunities. Don't worry that you're asking someone to do too much. The networking opportunities, I think everywhere are probably pretty good, but Washington is based on those relationships. That's how people get things done here, as they build that. I think there's also just so many great things in Washington about how it's built up over the last few years in terms of not only the museums, but the restaurants and the cultural life, the diversity. It's one of the most diverse cities in America. It's fantastic for all that. The one thing that you need to think about and see when you come to Washington is, what are your politics? Are you really political? It's become right now an extraordinarily partisan town. It's always been a partisan town, but right now you see the depths of that, and you see the dichotomy and how strong that is. And if you come here and want to play in partisan politics, you're going to choose one side or the other. And if you're going to come here and you're not a strong partisan, you need to think very seriously about what that means. Not that you shouldn't come here, but how you represent yourself, and how the caution, actually you have to take some caution of not too closely identifying yourself with one side or the other, because if you do, you're immediately on that side, and it's pretty tough to move away from it. So it's the partisanship, to me, is one of the sort of scarier zones in Washington right now. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's the easy way out of a lot of things. It's easy to yell and scream at each other. It's much harder to make things work well. And it's usually when we come to the middle that things work the best. So I won't get on that preach, but go ahead with the next question.
Okay, next question. We'll talk C-SPAN. We do have somebody who applied for an internship at C-SPAN. And how would you describe the work environment C-SPAN cultivates for its employees?
Well, we're so small and a nonprofit that the internships for us are incredibly important, and we really put people to work. And I think I have an internship in my group every year, and it's so important to deliver. They work mainly on the social media side, to have a young person contributing to our voice and trying to attract younger people to be interested in watch C-SPAN and to consume our content and to sort of value our form of journalism. So it's really important. But we also give a lot of time with our senior executives. Our two CEOs spend a lot of time with it. Our founder spends a lot of time. So it's pretty good. I encourage whomever that is. I didn't know that there was a C-SPAN person that applied this year. I don't think it's too late. Please email me and I will put in a good word. Doesn't mean it happens, but I will absolutely help get a Torero into C-SPAN if I can. Thank you.
That's awesome.
I'm so thrilled someone's interested. That's great.
That's great. What is the favorite part of your job?
Favorite part of my job is I mean, it's hard probably for most of you to imagine being in the same job for now 37 years, or same company for 37 years. I never imagined that anything like that, though I couldn't be more happy and more proud of what it's done. And probably the reason I can say that is my job has changed so much, because the world of media has changed so much, Washington has changed so much, technology has changed so much. So my interests were really a little bit in business, but more in politics and policy. And as I told you at the start, I got really interested in journalism. So C-SPAN was this like amazingly fortunate landing spot for me, because it encompassed all those things. And since then, since the 2000s, really, you've thrown in tech. So I've been able to do a lot of different things and grow my professional life, learning new things, developing new things, managing new kinds of projects. And that's sort of every day, I don't know what's going to happen. A lot of people want something very specific. My days are really wide open. I thrive on that sort of atmosphere. And I've been able to do that at C-SPAN now for a long time.
Variety is the spice of life. All right.
Variety is.
I hate to say it, but we're time is just about up. So 2 last questions. What is your favorite hidden gem in Washington, D.C.?
My favorite what?
Hidden gem. GEM.
The favorite hidden gem. Well,
like
it's there's the aquatic gardens, which is a wonderful place to sort of visit and sightsee. And then there's a place up on the far eastern side of Capitol Hill called the Roost. And if you want a great selection of microbreweries from the area and great foods from a food court, I really like the Roost at 14th and Penn.
all right, maybe we can meet up there before our
There
event
you
on
go.
Saturday,
Next event,
January 3rd
yes.
with the Nationals. All right, and what's the favorite USD event you've participated in Washington, D.C.?
Oh gosh, my favorite event in DC, it's an easy one. It was in honor of Dell Dixon's retirement. Maybe some of the people on the call were with Dell Dixon, but we were able to endow a scholarship in Dell's name. And Dell just had a huge impact on me. Since he did not teach me at USD, but since then, he taught my son, and I've got to know him as one of the sort of genuine characters that make USD such a special place in my mind. And to be able to sort of high five, fist bump, and hug Dell for all he's done for legions of students and the university itself was really meaningful. And the turnout that we got from alumni, I think, was probably the biggest for that event of anything we've done. And we had, no kidding, I think we had 3 or maybe even 5 years to endow the scholarship. We endowed it in 1 week. That's how popular Dell was. So it says a lot about USD that people came out for a professor to make that sort of commitment, financial and sort of emotional and intellectual commitment to one of their teachers. That's what we're talking about. That's what we ultimately get down to. And that's the kind of thing that you may not see right now as you're in USD and getting out of USD. But over time, if you take advantage of these alumni events, you will have that. I am confident of it, and it's extraordinarily special. And I encourage you to welcome it into your life.
Well, Peter, so grateful for you and for all you did to help us get that scholarship rolling. And it's just great to visit with you. And I think I'm going to turn it back over to Megan right now, and she's going to put up your email address. And again, join Peter Kiley on LinkedIn. And Peter, grateful for you, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Great. Thank you so much. Grateful for all you do. And thank you all for sticking with us for a half hour. It's fantastic. Thanks.
Back to you, Megan.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. That was such an interesting conversation. Such great resources were shared from Matt, from Peter, from Charles, and a couple of more on your screen. So here you'll see Peter's email as well as Charles if you want to get connected with them after the event. No matter what, though, I will be sending out to those who registered some more links and information that was shared today, so you can get really going on that next step and connecting with fellow Toreros, especially fellow Toreros in DC. So on your screen as well, you will see some other upcoming events that we have that might interest you. We have our senior launch 2 for the class of 2023 coming up tomorrow. That will be a great event if anyone who is a student on this call would like to attend. We have the last event in our DEI series, Living into Inclusion, which is DEI in Corporate America. We have a couple of other really great events, a wellness series that we're partnering on with our School of Leadership and Education Sciences in May. All of these are virtual that I mentioned, so it's really easy and convenient for you to participate. But the last thing I want to comment on, and Charles already addressed it as well, is the 6-3 Nationals pregame and game in DC. So we hope that those who are on this call or who are watching at a later time that live in DC will join us for that event. It really, truly is such a fun summer gathering for our alumni and parents in the area. And that is all we have for you. So thank you all once again for taking the time today, a quick 30 minutes of your afternoon or evening if you're in DC. And we hope that we will see you online again soon. Thanks all, and have a great rest of your day.